Testing, 1, 2, 3. Okay, this is a cogging motor. I've got it enabled in a current mode, and I'm going to rotate the shaft and feel the cog. This is unique such that it's not compensation per phase. The cog compensation changes over different phases. So we have to use cog compensation per motor rev. This motor has an index. We'll go to the index to home it. We'll create a cog compensation table from the index marker for a single rev, and we'll apply that while we're rotating. So you can kind of see maybe there's a little, definitely feel it, but as you rotate the motor shaft, it goes clunk, 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 clunk. Okay. Um, let's take a look at what this looks like. You can see as I'm rotating through the position of one cycle, this has got a resolver and it's 65536 -1 wrapping. So I just keep wrapping it. I'm in a current mode and I've enabled the drive and I'm commanding 0 current, and you can see the variation as I rotate smoothly. So I'm going to apply a cog compensation table per 1 rev of the motor. You can see here that it's important before the cog compensation table takes effect, we have to have referenced or homed the motor. So I had it in a position mode first. I did some homing, and then I switched it over to current mode. But let's open up the cog compensation table, and it's not per phase, it's per using the position as input. And the period of counts is 32. The wrap is 65536 for 1 rev from the index, and you can adjust it plus or minus a little bit. Period of the counts has to do with how many cycles per 1 rev, but we're going to use 2048 points, 0 counts, so 0 counts is the first one. And so at this position, the current will be 475 milliamps, and then you can see it vary plus or minus, plus or minus, plus or minus as we're rotating through 1 rev of the motor. I'm going to save the cog compensation table that's already been loaded down to the drive. I'll show you how to create that in a minute, but first we're going to apply the table. We're going to enable the drive, and we're going to see what the variation does. That feels a little smoother. And as I rotate the motor shaft, you can see, yeah, there's some variation. That's my hand, but there's less bumpy because we're commanding a current proportional to the cog in the motor. So the cog is a torque, we're applying a current, and it's compensating. So in order to gather this cog compensation table, and you can see it has a variation that may not be once per motor phase cycle, but it is repeatable once per rev. So the effect by hand in a current mode feels smoother. So that's good for closing the position and velocity loop. So let's take a look at how we created this table. I'm running the CogComp tool. I got this tool off the Copley webpage under support, under general resources, under software, under CogComp. This says using phase, but the latest one has a new feature, custom waveform, and I'm not going to use phase angle, I'm going to use position. I'm going to open up a file here. So insert file path here. So I select on my desktop my example file. I open it. Oh, CSV. Select from my desktop CogComp per rev. And you can see for one motor rev, this is what the cogging looked like as we gathered the data. There's a little help button here. So thanks, Anthony. This is scope trace. We made two motor revs, accelerated, ran at a velocity, a slow speed, maybe 120 RPM. And you can see there's a variation in the following error and the current, but you can see here at this point in the phase, it's high, and it's kind of repetitive, but here it's a little lower. This one's got a big bump in the middle. This one's got a little bump. This one's got a big bump. This one's got a little bump. And so it's not per phase cog comp. It's per motor rev because there's some variation through the phases. And so this trace did two motor revs. I turned the wrap on. I homed to the index so we can see in CME, if we go back to the position mode, change settings, and position mode. Okay, so we can go to the home screen, next index, so I can home it. Homing complete. When the homing's complete, you're referenced. If you're referenced, then the cog compensation will be applied. So if you're not referenced, the cog compensation table will not be applied. So we can gather the data in the scope. We can look at the phase, which is normally it's per phase, but we're trying to gather the actual current through one motor rev, and we've given the information about the motor rev here. 65536 is one motor rev from the index. And so that's the help. So you got to gather the data, and it just strips out the current over one motor rev. You can adjust the amplitude and the phase here of this waveform. I'm just using it as it was gathered from having tuned velocity and position loops, nice and smooth, as low error as we can get. It was plus or minus 50 counts, so it's very coggy, but that's the best we could get. And you can see the variation in current that the loop has to perform to have a nice smooth velocity. I didn't see much effect in the counts. It did go down a little bit, definitely when you go faster because of more inertia, but it feels smoother. So it's a bit subjective if you look at the counts, but it feels much smoother. So a little subjective, but it's real. So anyways, I've got this information, got the file. I'll create the file, and it creates on your desktop a cog compensation file, which you can load. So under gains, I'm going to restore a file, and I'm going to look on my desktop, and I'm not seeing it. Let me try again. Example file.cce. Okay. Okay, there it is. Okay. All right. So there's the table that gets created. These are some header parameters for the cog comp. These are all the data values. So this is created from what we see on the screen here for display purposes. And then we can open up the file. Oh, it's not a gain schedule. Sorry. It's a correction table. Aha. And find the file on your desktop. And there it is. Okay, so we open up that file. We save it to Flash. You can look at it. And then it doesn't take effect until after homing. And so let's see, now that we're in a position mode, let's see if we can make a profile move. That's pretty good. 65536 is one motor rev. I'm going to take off the wrench so I don't kill myself here. And let's do the trigger setup back back to the ordinary. I had the trigger set for rising edge in the middle of the range, so it would gather the data when I was in a current mode because it wraps. but we'll go back to the normal trigger setup, event status rising edge, miscellaneous in motion. Okay, okay, and that's a single rev move, relative. I can go to 0. Okay, and then I can do a relative 131072. That's 2 revs. And oh, that's looking at the current again. Yeah, it looks pretty smooth through here. That's better than I can turn by hand. Stop trace auto setup checkbox and current, actual current. And then let's look at the miscellaneous motor phase angle. Okay, and then position, actual motor position, and 131072. So that's 2 revs of the motor, presumably from the 0 position. And so you can see the following error. Actually, the following error looks a little better here. It's down to plus or minus 20 counts from plus or minus 50. But this is how you might gather the current information with the cog compensation turned off. So let's go to the correction table. Let's disable it. Save the flash. Okay, so I'm going to make the same move without the cog compensation. And so this is the cog, maybe a little bit more than plus or minus 20 counts. Still looks pretty smooth, but you can feel it and hear it. It's a little subjective, that, but it sounds smoother, and the frequencies have gone from low frequency cogging to a more higher frequency, sort of second order cog, which really, if you have some inertia, it's probably not going to affect you as much as this fundamental low frequency cogginess that you see here. So let's turn that back on. Phase correction per input, save. Okay. Make sure that I'm referenced. Yeah, I'm still referenced to home. And yeah, you can see the low frequency stuff's pretty much dead. There's a little bit of higher frequency second order stuff here, but that's way out of the range of most mechanical systems. And so as you go faster, the following error comes down, and it just feels smoother when you go slow. Okay, thanks for watching.